Alrighty. Uno, dos, cuatro. Good evening. Welcome to episode 9. Nueve.
They said it couldn't be done, Dylan. 9 episodes in.
Yeah, the royal they said it couldn't happen, dude. I'm Dylan. Uh Welcome to the Uncool show.
I'm Randy.
Here he is, dude.
Here he is.
Here we are. Uh that's awesome. The moment it starts, I get a nice little
Keep that in.
notification. Um, Thank y'all for everything with our last episode, episode 8. We got a lot of good responses. I don't know about you, I got a lot of good responses from people that I personally know, which was a welcome surprise, and I think a lot of people really enjoyed the new direction and the new path, so to speak. My cousin Megan's boyfriend Louis was like, "Yeah, when they were doing sports, I listened to it, but now I'm actually listening to it."
Yeah.
I think that that's kind of the plan, and it's refreshing to hear that. Um, would you say that's been the same for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I think before with sports, I mean, yeah, certain people cared about that, but we're not like a professional sports podcast, and you got to get that stuff out so quickly, and I think now that we're actually talking about stuff that people can actually relate to, a lot of people that actually know us, they appreciated the, what would you say, like the authenticity, I guess. And we're definitely gonna get really authentic people here moving forward, as time moves forward. But yeah, we appreciate all the great comments and feedback, and how much you guys enjoyed the first episode back. So yeah, I got the same stuff, Dylan. Honestly, um,
Which is really really cool.
yeah.
Um, it's in a really small, not a small, in a small form right now, but it's still cool
Hmm.
that we're having that conversation with people here and there now, and um that we can use our small platform to try to make topics that are a little uncool, so to speak, a little more easy and accessible to talk about, and hopefully less stigmatized.
Yep.
So for this episode, we are going to talk about anxiety. uh
Big topic.
yeah, anxiety looks different for every single person, but yet there are, certain shared traits of anxiety, and it definitely like I said, it manifests itself in different ways. And I'll definitely touch on my anxiety throughout, but we're I'd like you to start if you wouldn't mind, Randy.
Oh gosh, put me on the spot.
Well, no,
Yeah.
just in general, like what does anxiety in your day to day look like, and how what symptoms come along with that, and what do you try to do
Hmm.
to cope with those symptoms?
Well, I think for me, I'm gonna go back to when I was a child first, because I think it looked a little different, and I'm sure it was different for you at points as you age and go through different life experiences. But for me, it started with separation anxiety, which I really struggled with my parents, and my good old Susan especially knows very well, how I struggled with that early on growing up until like basically fifth grade, sixth grade, when I'll let you guys in on a secret. I was a Boy Scout, and Boy Scouts actually really
That
helped me.
broke you out of your shell.
It broke me out of the separation anxiety, because when I
Yeah,
tell
that's
you,
cool.
Dylan, I couldn't even like be away from my parents, dude, like in overnight sleepovers at times, because I was so anxious to
Yeah.
like be away from my folks. And there was a story I'll tell real quick, that my mom knows very well. When I was like probably like 6 or 7, and I was still pretty little, and she was just running in our old house down to like the grocery store down the street, maybe like 5 minutes away or whatever. And she's like, "All right, buddy, I'll be right back in like 5, 10 minutes. I'm just gonna get some stuff. I'm gonna
Like
keep you."
complete
Yeah,
meltdown.
yeah. And
Yeah.
no, no, I'm gonna keep you in the house. You got your toys, like
Everything
you'll
will
be
be
good.
cool. Yeah.
And she just leaves the house for like 5, 10 minutes, and everything's good. I'm safe in the house, and everything. And after like 5 minutes, something just happens to me. I remember it very distinctly. I'm like, "Wait, mom's not home yet. Like, what happened?" And I like start freaking out, and to the point where Dylan, I'm running around the house, like looking out the window. I'm like, "Is she coming back? Is she coming back?"
Yeah.
And I open up the door then, and I run out the house, and I'm like, "Mom, mom!" And like our neighbors, literally who she's really close with, they like come out, and they're like, "Randy, what's wrong?" And my mom comes home like 5 minutes later, and just, oh man, just she's like, "What's going on?" And she just, yeah, it stemmed from even stuff like that, honestly. So the separation anxiety was real. Again, thank
So
goodness.
so you're putting that on Susan?
No, I'm not putting that on Susan at all. What I'm saying is that that was just one example of like how much I struggled with it. It wasn't on
No,
my
for sure.
parents at
For
all.
sure. It's just something
Yeah,
that manifests itself.
for sure. And then as it kind of, progressed for me, I would say I got over that, and then it probably just led to like probably what other people feel a lot, which is like anxiety of social pressures, like fitting in, in high school and talking to girls or whatever, being cool in a sense of like, on sports teams. And I think an anxiety came from me not like, getting as tall as quickly as other people and, kind of maturing as quickly. I was a little tyke, in high school still, and it was a late bloomer, as you would say. So I would say that was an example. As I kind of probably moved through even up until where we're at now, Dylan, I would say the only way I really was able to truly kind of help with anxiety lately is just knowing that some things are just out of your control. And I know we kind of tie it back to faith a lot here, and we will be, but honestly, for me, it's faith. Faith has literally helped me so much, like with anxiety, in terms of just knowing that there are just certain things that will be out of your control, and that's okay, because we have a creator that is looking out for us and our best interests. And I think paired with that is knowing that you surround yourself with the right people that encourage you to be the best version of yourself, versus being around toxic energy, things like that. I think those types of things help. You're a product of your environment. So, um,
And yeah, but
yeah,
and faith is a good bullet answer, but
yeah,
give me like actual things you do,
yeah, yeah,
because that doesn't you know
yeah.
you have to be
Yeah. So like for instance, like one thing that helps me I think is just keeping busy honestly too. Not actually basically yeah, just keeping busy and actually not directing my mind on the things that are making me anxious, but just like, focus on things that you're passionate about, things that give you purpose, whether it's your job, whether it's, a side hustle, whether it's, a sport, a hobby. I think that's one thing that helps me. I notice when I'm actually just sitting around doing nothing, I get super, super anxious about certain things in life. So I would say that's one thing, staying busy,
well. I'm
keeping
gonna
your,
go back to your first point.
yeah.
So instead of uh addressing what makes you anxious, you distract yourself with other things.
A little bit, yeah, because sometimes, like, that's how I cope with it to
And
start. Yeah,
everybody does that, but
yeah.
you have to know that like that's not healthy long term.
No, I know, I was gonna get there, but that's, like, something when it's, like, actually, like, in the heat of it, like, usually what I try to do is I try to just not focus on it too heavily. But what I will say then, I guess, is what helps me then from there is kind of sitting in that anxiety a little bit at times and trying to figure out where does that stem from, I guess. So when I'm, like, actually, like, feeling it, one of my tactics is in order to just keep myself from, like, really going in a spiral, as you would say, I distract myself. But then once I kinda get myself out of that mind frame. I look back into it when I'm more, what's the word, collected, I guess you could
Or
say.
present.
Yeah, more present. Cause like when I try to solve it, Dylan, like when I'm in that heat of that spiral, like it doesn't work for me. I have to like kind of like get myself out of that. And the only way I can do that is to actually like distract myself for a little bit. And then when I'm in a better mind frame, I come back and I think, like you said, the key is finding out where it stems from. And for me, I think a lot of it is just really stemming from caring so much again, kind of like the last episode, people pleasing, like caring about like how other people perceive me and how other people think of me. And I try to like I think I overvalue that at times, and that can lead to anxiety in terms of like, societal pressure, things like that. Am I doing everything that I can be doing, stuff like that, I guess. So I think the key is actually trying to figure out where does that come from, and I think that helps a lot with anxiety is finding out where that stems from, I guess. And everyone's different. You got to find out the root cause of it, I guess. Um, reflecting on it.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Like I said, it's not an easy, like you said, thing to handle. I think, Dylan, like you said, I think all of us find, but for me, it's like finding out where does it stem from, and that gives you a start as to like, okay, what is actually causing that anxiety? Is it something that's probably out of your control? Okay, um, and I guess that's why I'm curious, like what
Well, I
you
mean,
would say.
all anxiety and all mental health is out of people's control.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just challenging you to like dive a little deeper because
Mhm.
you're like giving me very like base level answers, but I know
Mhm.
that you're a lot deeper thinking than that.
Mhm.
Um, you know, what practical like for an example, like you said faith, but like prayer,
Mhm.
prayer as an example,
Yeah. Worship music
or certain
or
music,
music
or
or yeah.
fellowship, or
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, what are practical things that you could tell people watching instead of just
Yeah.
a label,
Yeah.
because that doesn't really work for people.
Yeah.
What like what about your anxiety do you feel, um because like you said, a lot of yours, it seems, stems from your relationship to other people and your perception of the people around you
Not being good enough. Yeah.
not being good enough,
Yep.
or whatever their perception of you may be, or whatever.
Yep.
How does that anxiety, because I'm, a lot of this is going to be, trying to flip anxiety on its head a little bit.
Mhm.
How does that like level of anxiety allow you to relate to other people more and
Mhm.
connect with other people more? Because that's what I see from you a lot more than, yeah, the people pleasing is very real with you, but
Mhm.
I think a lot of it is just for you stems from like a thirst and a hunger for connection, like genuine
Yeah.
connection. It's not
Yeah.
that you're anxious about maybe what people think of you, but you're anxious about maybe
Being
what their intentions are, if they're
yeah.
trustworthy,
Mhm.
and I that I and maybe that's just me projecting how I
Mhm.
feel too, but as much as you've talked about people pleasing lately,
Yep.
a lot of it I just think is like you're anxious because, you've had friendships that don't go well, or you've had relationships that don't go
Yep.
well. So you bring that collective
Yeah.
baggage into every
Yep.
interaction, just like I do, just like everybody
Yep.
does, right?
Yep.
But that would be my challenge to you, dude, is that like, yeah, your people pleasing is, you're still in the middle of that, but like I think a lot of that is just you like people and people like you and
Yep.
you're able to see that, and
Yeah.
but at the same time, depending on the person that you're interacting with, that can lead to anxiety,
For sure.
because
Yeah.
whether that person is doing the right thing or treating you the right way, or if they're doing this or doing that, or if they actually don't care about you at all, but they're trying to, like certain people in college that we've alluded to, trying to like get something out of you or trying to make
Mhm.
you look a certain way,
Yep.
that can lead to anxiety,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but you're definitely getting a lot more awareness and a lot more
I think discernment is key.
discernment for
Yeah.
sure, and a lot more confidence surrounding who you are and what that looks like, and
Mhm.
you know how unique that can be.
Yep.
So, what other like elements of faith do you find important
Yeah.
for like managing anxiety?
Yeah, so what you were touching on earlier, I guess too, and other ways that again that you can help with this type of anxiety is what I was alluding to too, and then what you kind of built off of is surrounding yourself with the right community, the right people that actually empower you to actually be, someone that you actually want to be,
Hmm.
or that people see in you. And like
Yeah.
that's I guess like I guess one way you can help with your anxiety again, people, because anxiety stems from, like you just said, sometimes maybe you're not in the right environment, maybe you're also seeing situations for what they aren't really are, because like you said before, sometimes your past interactions with people. you bring that, like you said, into any situation moving forward. So then you're thinking, oh, this person's going to do the same thing that that person did to me in the past. So ergo, I'm going to actually, already kind of be anxious about it because I'm expecting that same outcome. And I think, like you said, like whether that's in relationships, friendships, maybe even like in some people's cases, why some people are so against, maybe faith too right now is maybe they had negative interactions with people at a church or at a religious organization or something where they felt very judged and things like that. I think anxiety stems from all those different past experiences too. And the best way to counteract that is to actually go into each situation with a open mind and actually like try to not just assume that every person you meet is gonna actually be out there to harm you, I guess, and stuff, because that's gonna in turn affect how you move forward with that interaction or that relationship or connection.
Is that like a symptom of your anxiety?
I think so, yeah, for sure.
That like people are out to get you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way,
No,
unfortunately.
that's a very
Yeah,
common.
I
That's
think
like
that's a huge,
I'm
yeah,
literally looking at like
yeah,
common signs and symptoms
yep,
of anxiety.
yeah.
I've struggled with that at
Oh
times. I'm
yeah,
just
for
like
sure.
everybody hates me. Everybody uh is out to get me.
Mhm.
There were points in college where like I would just be like walking to class and I'd be like, oh, everybody uh that I can see right now knows me and hates me.
Yep.
Even like complete strangers.
Mhm.
It's completely delusional and completely paranoid, but anxiety can lead you that way, especially if, like you've alluded to, you do care about what people think about you.
Mhm. Yep.
What other like physical symptoms do you like struggle with? Like, do you get panic attacks? Because I've
I
had a couple of panic attacks in my life, but like
spirals, I think if what you call it, yeah, spiral situation's the same thing, like
I've
panic.
never heard them referred to as that.
Well, like spiraling meaning like, yeah, you like freak out, you're like, yeah, like you said, you're panicked, you're just uneasy.
That's not what a panic attack is. So what do
Oh,
you like?
well, I guess that yeah, it's slightly different, but I guess no, I haven't had like a extreme panic attack. I've had
Well, what
spiral.
what is that?
Spiraling is like where like you said you do things where you're not thinking, properly and you're acting like you always tell me off of
Like
like
you're manic?
emotion. No, just like a pure emotion where you're like out of control almost in a sense and you're like thinking worst case scenario, so like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
act like it's an
But yeah,
emergency.
spiral.
Yeah.
That's not like a medical term. That'd be like
No, yeah.
that. Medically, like
Yeah.
you know, like manic. Like you're not in your mind and you're.
Yeah, I guess if you want to refer to it as manic, but I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
like again, I've just never heard, like. What does that look like? What does that look like for you?
Well, you've seen spiral situations of me, Dylan, in the past in college, like where I'm just like, like really anxious and freaking out about things, and like, in a sense where I'm just like not my normal self, like
That's like on the
that's I call it a
yeah,
spiral,
like
but
on the verge of like a mental breakdown,
yeah, mental
essentially.
breakdown.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I've
That's
seen
what I
yeah,
call spiraling,
God,
but
like
for
yeah,
people. Yeah,
spiraling
yeah,
into a
yeah. Panic
okay.
attack, I understand is an actual like legit. I get it, like where there's like
Yeah, I was just
like
trying
they
to
can't
understand.
breathe and
Yeah.
like stuff like that. I get that. I haven't had something like that, but I've had
No, I've
like
definitely seen you overthink yourself into
yes,
a spiraling type of panic.
yes, yeah.
I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying now for
Yeah.
sure.
I was like, "Dylan, you know this, like, you've
No, I've
seen it."
definitely
Yeah.
seen you do that.
Yeah.
I've never heard you refer to it like
Yeah.
that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like spiraling into that for
Yep.
sure. Um,
What about for you? Like, in terms of, like
my anxiety and
yeah.
what that looks like. Well, it's definitely gotten better over the years, but like I just alluded to, it got really bad in college, and I was like, there were like if I wasn't, I don't know, if I wasn't like at a party with you guys,
Mhm.
you know, drinking, drinking that anxiety away. Most of the times I was just, plugged into my music into like a world of anxiety,
Mm.
like completely anxious about pretty much everything. But, like you said, my relationship with God has just kind of evolved through the years, and he's carried me through a lot of that. But
Yeah.
I still struggle with anxiety for sure, though. I'm trying to, like, I'm like actively trying to think of how anxious I used to be. Um, but yeah, I mean, I used to be like genuinely anxious to the point of like borderline paranoia,
Yeah.
where I thought that everybody was out to get me, and all my friends hated me, all my family hated me, just everybody,
Yeah, which
just
is a lie.
oh, of course, you're just
But
internalizing yourself. I mean, externalizing your self hatred
yep.
instead of looking at that and addressing that for sure. Um, I used to get very anxious about perception of me for sure, and that can still pop in here and there, but not as much. I working at Cafe Hollander really really knocked that out of me, dude. I went into that building caring about what everybody thought, and I left that building
Not caring at all.
caring about what very little people
Yeah.
of there thought of me. Um,
Which is another tactic, by the way, I'll say, for helping anxiety is not caring necessarily
yeah,
about
no, it
what
was a
things.
beautiful thing for me, and
Yeah,
I didn't go about that job in the right way at times, and
yeah,
everybody who works with me would probably tell you that. But yeah, I just genuinely I grew up there, and that job helped me overcome a ton of
mhm,
I think I talked we talked about this with Alexis briefly. Like
mhm,
jobs like that, you're talking to so many people and so many different types of people in such a high paced environment that you know my first couple of months working at a restaurant, you'd see a couple hundred people a day and not even think about it. So
mhm.
that really helped me just getting myself out there, really not being so insular in my life and
Not so isolated and
isolating so
yeah,
much. um I definitely think trouble sleeping is still an issue with me with my anxiety.
yeah,
um I can still get anxious in certain social situations, but I don't know. I Nowadays I think a lot, and you and I touch on this a lot, and we'll get into this. I think a lot of my anxiety just stems on like financial issues
for sure. Yep, I can relate
and
to that.
like world social issues
Yep, people can
and
relate to that.
just like normal family stuff that every not normal, but like
Yeah,
abnormal family dynamics that every family has to certain degrees and in certain areas.
mhm,
But yeah, those things have definitely still impacted me. And like you said, I try to just be very grounded and intentional in like prayer and reading and being thankful. Um,
gratitude, like you're saying, that's very key, I think, too.
yeah, I've been uh, ever since I learned this through a YouTube short. I couldn't even tell you what it was, but like the human brain can't be anxious and grateful at the same time.
Yep,
So I've been doing that a lot lately and been encouraging other people to do that. So if anybody is watching this and that resonates with you, like just combat anxiety with gratitude, because your brain literally can't process those two things, or like two vastly different sections and two vastly different neural connections. So,
mhm,
you know, there are times at work where I'll be getting anxious about, you or just somebody in my life. And, you know, instead of being anxious about, what are Randy and I going to do for the next episode, or what conversation am I going to have with this person in my family?
yep,
I just try to like be thankful for that person and keep moving, and the more you do that, the more you can literally rewire your brain
yep.
to be less anxious. I don't know if there's ever like a Elon Musk put the chip in your brain and all your anxiety goes away,
Which,
but
by the way, don't do that, people.
I definitely that's been my most effective tool. That and like breath work and meditation.
Yeah,
That's been
prayer,
very
all that stuff, yeah.
very helpful, and I do that as often as I possibly can.
It's interesting you bring up the gratitude, like you said, because you can tie it back to like whether you want to go into the Bible or faith, or but you can also tie it back to like for just about anyone what he just said. Let's give an example here. Say someone is anxious about your finances, okay? Let's say that's an example here. Whether if it's me or Dylan or anyone, you can think like, oh, I don't have enough money for this, or I don't have enough money to survive. But then, like you said, you can flip that to think, well, there's definitely people that are way off in a worse situation than I am financially for sure out there, and they're making it work. And it's almost like you said, it's you have to like almost pay attention to your blessings in a sense. And when you start focusing on the good and the blessings that you have in your life, anxiety, like you said, almost seems to like kind of lift because you're actually very grateful for all these other things in your life that, you do have. And I think anxiety again stems from things that again are out of your control, or things that have not happened yet, or that you maybe things you don't have, stuff like that. Anxiety kind of fuels off of that. But when you focus on how full your life is, or how, great some of the people are in your life, it really does kind of give you this sense of peace, I guess you could say. I would say that kind of helps me a lot with anxiety too. Like you said, focusing on all the blessings, like you said. I think it's just like you said, it's like a hack
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah, no,
Um,
100%.
and I really think that is one of the most effective ways, honestly, when I think about it, because it's just, um, yeah, because everyone, just about probably everyone, has some sort of level of anxiety. But when you focus on the good instead of always the bad or the things that could happen, your mind just kind of reworks itself, where you're like, okay, everything's fine. I'll be good, you know?
Well, no, no, Randy, not that everything is
Well,
fine, but that you
it
will get,
get
you
through
will
it.
overcome.
You'll overcome it and you'll get through it, I guess.
This
Yeah.
isn't like,
Yeah.
again, nothing is black and white. It takes a long time to do so.
For sure. I'm just saying, is what I'm saying is that it reworks your brain, like you said, in that moment where you're like, you're gonna get through it. It's not like, that's what I'm trying to go with
No, for
that.
sure.
Um, yeah, of course nothing's black and white. I mean, none of us have, overcome completely our anxiety. I think it comes in different forms throughout your life, but the key is, how are you going to address it? How are you going to fight it, or um, take it head on, basically, instead of running away from it and things like that, or embracing the anxiety. Instead, you say, no, I'm gonna counteract it, basically. Um,
Yeah, well, I don't think like people, there are certain like positive aspects to anxiety that, people with anxiety are typically quicker in their
mhm.
jobs and
We were
typically
just talking about
a
that.
little more type A and organized and this and that.
Yeah,
And there are certain positives that you can spin out of it for sure. But nobody's meant to be anxious and nobody's like
yeah,
built to be like a walking ball of anxiety all the time.
yeah.
Um,
I don't know how you would do that, honestly. Like,
well, plenty of people in this country and all over the world do, a lot of people don't even have the awareness that, that like that's what's going on.
it's
A
almost like
lot of
it's
people,
subconscious anxiety, is what you're saying. And
well, no, it's very, I mean, it's very real and very conscious, but like
yeah,
people don't have an awareness of how pervasive it is in their life. A lot of people don't get, you know, diagnosed with anxiety or OCD or anxiety type, I mean, anxiety related disorders until their late 20s, 30s,
hmm,
usually 35 to 40 is the cutoff. But, you know, it doesn't mean that those seeds weren't planted a long time ago. People are struggling.
hmm,
A lot of people have anxiety.
hmm,
Um, and that's a spectrum in different waves and in different ways for sure. But I consider myself grateful that my anxiety still I'm still able to go outside and
hmm,
I know people that have a hard time leaving their house or have a hard time you know interacting with the real world,
yep,
and that's a really hard thing to see, especially in family members and friends.
hmm,
uh so what works for Randy and I in terms of you know me going for a hike and breathing and praying and being thankful, all those things can work, but there's also a certain level of anxiety that um might require medication. And I didn't even tell you this because I'm hitting you with a curveball right
oh
now.
gosh.
But on Spotify we actually got like a question on our last
On
episode.
the comments, we actually got a comment on
Yeah,
Spotify.
from a complete stranger.
Oh,
uh
okay.
So I'm just gonna read this, and I'm not gonna say this stranger's name or anything like that. Uh, can you talk about mental health with medication, but in a Christian perspective?
Mm,
I've been getting a lot of grief from people saying I don't need medication, but I need God.
yep,
I really want to know your thoughts. Well, one, I'm gonna start with this
You
if you
should,
don't
yeah,
mind.
because this actually there's people in our lives that are
I
also in that conundrum.
Yeah, and well, one, thank you for asking us, and it's really cool. Like this is why we want to do this, and so thank you for that, and I hope you're doing well. Uh, I'm sorry that you've been getting grief from people. That's kind of crazy. You should definitely be surrounding yourself with people who, when you open up and talk about your mental health, that they support you and they don't judge you.
Do it with
Um,
love.
yeah, getting grief from people in your life saying that you don't need medication. Okay, my perspective on medication. I'm not a doctor, and it's just you know, anxiety and depression medication is designed to be used as a tool. It's not designed to be lived on. They're designed to be used for like a year, year and a half, 2 years tops, and then you're supposed to get off them at that point.
Mhm.
We live in a country, and due to lobbyists and healthcare, where people are incentivized due to money to stay medicated,
Push uphill.
yeah, to a level that is unsafe and probably unwell. I haven't. I don't think. God gives gifts freely, and He gives doctors and nurses and medical professionals and medical practitioners of all sorts and sizes, and all the good pharmaceutical people. Like He gives them their brain and their analytical mind, and He gives them the ability to formulate medicine. Hopefully, they're doing it safely,
Yeah.
which is a whole other can of worms. But for the most part, uh, you know, medication when used appropriately is just that. It's
Mhm.
appropriate medicine. Um, I was on antidepressants for 2 years, and then I got off of them because of that, like just of my knowledge of that, not wanting to be reliant on them. And there have been points in my life where I probably should have gone back on them and this and that. There's no shame in medication, but just like anything,
Don't make it a crutch for the
yeah,
rest of your life.
you're supposed like you know if you're taking something for anxiety, it shouldn't just be well every time you feel anxious, just pop one of these. It should
Yeah.
be you know use this when you need to and try to unpack that anxiety and try to figure out ways to really combat that. And again, they're different for everybody, but you can't just be popping pills and sitting on your couch for 10, 15, 20 years and expecting that's actually going to help your anxiety. You have
No.
to
Put in the work a little bit.
take other steps and
Yeah.
again, use medication as a tool.
Yep.
So yeah, again, thank you for your question. And I mean, you do need. I mean, everybody needs God too. I'm not going to say that you don't need God, and your friends are right.
Yeah.
And
God can definitely help.
yeah, but like
Can heal anxiety
your
for sure.
friends need God too.
Yeah.
Your friends need God to keep them from being judgmental and um blindly ignorant about very basic tenets of society. Uh, if they're giving you grief and making like value judgments based off of your mental health, you probably need to really look at your relationship with these people. Um,
And maybe bring it up to them too, because maybe there are
yeah,
people that matter to you, and maybe they just need to hear where you're coming
yeah,
from with that, and maybe they totally change their tune. I think
yep.
at the end of the day, doesn't mean you have to cut them off by any
No,
means, but
no.
like you
When I
said,
was saying, like, yeah,
yeah,
look at it, but then, yeah,
yeah,
like
reevaluate where,
reevaluate
yeah,
it, and then yes, like definitely let them know that what they said hurt you because
mhm,
clearly you were feeling some type of way, and that's totally appropriate.
yep,
Um, and maybe if you listen to this and you feel comfortable, respond again. Maybe we can do a whole episode on like I don't know, just stay in touch. But base level, you do need God, but God can definitely use um
tools.
medication and doctors and uh you know there's a reason why people are being and I'm not going to say this for, I know people that are, being healed just by switching up their diet and by
Yep.
eating clean and organic and
Yep.
putting cleaner things into their body. And, what you put into your body matters, and medications definitely do matter. So do your research and, find a doctor that you can really be open and honest with.
Mhm.
But again, you know, every couple of years you'll hear about these people who, like, their 8-year-old dies, and you know doctors are like begging these parents to give these kids medicine,
Antibiotics or something,
and they're
yeah.
just like, well, no, we're just gonna pray it away. It's like, well, you know what,
First of all, that's cool, but
you're an
secondly,
idiot. That's what it is.
yeah,
you're
like,
you're you're,
sometimes
you're
you gotta
dumb.
know when to actually, like,
Yeah,
because like
yeah,
you said, it could be that God's trying to, tell you, like, "Hey, no, like, I gave you these antibiotics for
yeah,
a reason,"
yeah. I mean, like,
you
come on.
know? Not to
Again,
say that he can't do it.
of
I
course,
understand where they're
of
coming
course,
from, but it's
he
like,
works through people.
yeah,
He works
yeah,
through doctors and
yeah,
nurses, and that's why those people are so highly valued in society
yep,
most of the time.
yep,
They're important people. They matter. They
yep,
do nurses and doctors do really
yeah,
important work.
yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
They're not irrelevant all of a sudden or anything,
Yeah,
but
for sure. I
yeah,
mean, they're more relevant than ever probably
yeah,
because we're getting sicker and more anxious as a society.
yeah.
Um, which kind of takes me to like my next point. I wanted to talk to you about uh, where you feel technology and social media play into your anxiety, because I know where they play into mine, but you're a little more open
Oh, yeah,
about your relationship to social media, and I don't know. I've stepped back a little bit,
yep.
you know.
Alright. I got
All
2 words
all
here,
right, all right,
and the biggest one, and I think a
all
lot of
right.
people will relate to this, is TikTok. TikTok, I am totally convinced, is one of the most, I'll say right now, powerful tools out there when it comes to marketing and promoting. But at the very same time, it is one of, I think, the biggest tools right now that is totally imploding not only just our country, but the world because of how much it adds to ADHD, that instant gratification, just anything that you could think of as far as a topic, people can post on there. And I'll just openly say, Dylan, that TikTok in particular, social media, but mainly TikTok, has really led to my anxiety when it came to things like even like my faith, the state of the world, health stuff, like you said, the stuff that goes on there. And I'll just tell people openly right now, if you don't want to be anxious for sure or any more added anxiety, get off of things like TikTok because to be honest with you, it does no good for you. Maybe once in a while you find some cool TikToks here and there that are helpful, but it's not worth it, honestly. And not even just TikTok, social
Yeah, it's not
media.
just TikTok,
Yeah,
but
but I highlight that one because that one in particular I've found because of the algorithm and everything, it can really get good at like what are almost like your anxieties. I'm gonna keep giving you that and stuff. And um but what I'll say too, building off that is other social media because like we said, we live in this world where everyone posts their highlights, their top moments, all these awesome things, which again, great. But it also is used to promote a lot of negativity too and things. And I think when you're constantly filling yourself with all that constant dopamine hits and things, it just fuels your anxiety because it's like not reality, like you said. Your body just almost can't even handle it. There's a reason why us as humans, we're not meant to have this constant dopamine hit of negative, positive all the time at your fingertips. It's like a drug, like you said,
yeah,
a
but
drug that just fuels anxiety.
and I agree. Uh, I do feel like people are kind of like waking up to like the fact that this stuff is like really, really bad for you.
Yeah. They might have to ban it eventually, dude. I'm serious. Or like,
It'll just
I
be
don't
like
know.
a new form that'll be
Yeah.
harder to get away from.
Yeah.
But I mean, the numbers are very clear that like anxiety is up in young kids uh, post, Facebook and MySpace way back in the day.
Hmm.
Post social media really taking off. Like it opens up kids to a whole world that they really weren't that I wasn't aware of
No,
when I
neither of
was
us were
coming up.
exposed to.
Um, even just without like the instant scrolling and the instant gratification, and
Hmm.
yeah, sorry, I lost my point earlier, but I'm coming back to it. Um, I do feel like people are waking up to, yeah, not also that it's bad for you, but that people posting their highlights is not real.
Oh, yeah.
I think everybody is now aware that like you posting, the picture next to the Bugatti isn't your Bugatti, it's the rented Bugatti, or it's the Bugatti that you found on the street and you had your boys pose with
Yeah.
to try to look the part.
Yeah.
You know, when you're posting that picture of you on that yacht or that cruise, people don't know that you paid $25 a night for that cruise because cruises are dirt cheap. You
Mhm.
just want to look the part,
Mhm.
like as a culture and as a society, we're waking up to like the fact that this stuff isn't real.
Most of it,
And
yeah.
most of it has no meaning. It's just to sell you a product, like you said, or to make you think a certain way or put a certain idea in your head.
Go out and spend money so that people think
Yeah,
I'm cool and stuff or whatever.
that's
Yeah.
really like,
Yeah.
just get you to, like I said, just get you to buy something.
Yeah.
Um, and as social media continues to evolve and take shape, it's just going to become more and more uh, built and designed towards anxiety.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I don't know about you, but like when VR really takes off, you know, people are gonna have to make a really real choice as to whether or not they take part in that. But that's a whole other can of worms.
I definitely don't want to, but I say that now, but it's gonna be enticing like anything at times. But um I think it's interesting you just said though, Dylan, building off that real quick is that when it comes to social media too, um, because of the constant information influx and highlights and stimulation and cool stuff like you said, it almost feels like anxiety again is stemmed from the belief of endless options, endless entertainment, endless, friends to make or partners to meet or, job opportunities. It seems like because of social media and the internet, obviously, like it's created this false facade of I got endless opportunities and things to do because of this, and I think humans were never meant to have like endless, what I'm trying to say with that, like infinite amount of,
Well, yeah,
yeah, and I think that totally breeds anxiety in today's world because everyone's like, "Oh, if this doesn't work with this or that, I'm just gonna go on the internet and do this." And yes, that sounds cool and it sounds, hopeful and great, but it's like sometimes it hinders you because it doesn't allow you to actually take the certain situations you're in as seriously or opportunities as seriously because you have this mindset like, "Oh, if this doesn't work, I'll just do this then," and it doesn't drive you to actually put your best effort forward. Like I think all of us as humans were meant to do, not to say that you should put your effort into every single little thing like every time, but like, I'm trying to say with that, it kind of like,
to a degree.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Um,
just the endless, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the endless plethora of options
Yeah.
can lead to anxiety just because the human brain can't like make sense of them. It's
Yeah.
the same reason why like uh sexually explicit material on the internet is so pervasive and so
It's just out there.
hard to get away from because the human brain isn't meant to see that much. It's just way too much material and way too much data, so to speak. But in this world of like constant communication and constant connection, if you want to call it that, like we're always in front of a screen.
Yeah.
Unless you are choosing to be intentional. Like there's just screens and technology everywhere. And it's just not how the human brain was designed to function, but now we're becoming a little more in tune with all this technology than we are with the real world, and that to me is a very anxious to me gives me anxiety thinking about it.
Yep.
And then when I partake in it, it makes me even more anxious, but
Yep.
it's all about that balance.
Yep.
What in terms of anxiety do you feel like, I don't know, when you're feeling anxious, what like helps you in terms of not stuff that you can do because we've kind of addressed that, but like what do you need from other people when you're feeling anxious?
Yeah, and I'll ask you the same question after I answer this if that's cool. But I'll say for me, um, I think acknowledging it sometimes helps.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you know that
Yeah,
I
I
need
was
to
gonna I
I
was
need
gonna
to
say
feel
you need
acknowledged
yeah,
that I'm
dude, you
not just some
yeah, dude, you need
moron
yeah.
or I'm just like,
No,
"Grady,
for
you're
sure.
just being stupid," you know?
Yeah, no, you
Um,
definitely need
yeah.
people to, like, back you up.
Well,
For
just to
sure,
acknowledge that I'm
for
not like,
sure.
going crazy or something,
Yeah,
because I think all of us at
that
points in
validation.
our lives, yeah,
Yeah.
like get to a point where like, wait, am I tripping on this? Like, is this a real thing to actually be, let's say, anxious about or whatever? And I think you and I have both talked about it, like Dylan too, like just um by hearing that acknowledgement, it, like you said, gives you that validation, but it lets you know, like, and reaffirms, like, okay, it's not just like a complete fallacy or lie or something in my head that isn't actually going to happen. Like it is something that maybe could happen, but you don't need to freak out about it still. Like, you
Yeah.
need to, um,
Or conversely, like, I'm sure you've had moments where you've been like, "I've been anxious about blah, blah, blah,"
yep,
and then somebody else is like, "Oh, I'm anxious about the same stuff,
yeah,
dude," and you're like, "Oh, I thought I was the only one who
yeah,
gets anxious about
yeah,
that."
yep,
That type of
yeah.
interaction is very, palpable.
Yeah,
Uh,
and not bottling it up, like you said, because I think when you try and bottle up some of these things, and I've tried to do that, I'm sure I know Dylan does it
mhm.
a lot too. Sometimes
Very
when I tell him,
I'm
like,
very
Dylan,
good
just
at it.
tell me something, dude,
Very
so you're
good at
not
it.
keeping it just to yourself if you don't
Uh,
want that. But like, yeah, because when you bottle it up, then it gets borderline suffocating sometimes. Because then you just start like, I don't know about you, Dylan, but like I start like acting weird at times in social situations because I'm thinking about this like thing that could happen in the back of my mind, and
oh,
I'm
really?
not present or I'm not in that situation because I'm like thinking about that. And
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
so. I think it's important people to know that sometimes it's okay to like share your worries or share your anxieties to a certain degree, not to just always dump on to people, but the people that you really trust and you're close with. Sometimes if you're really struggling with something, it's okay to like share that with someone,
Yeah.
especially that you trust. I think that's very healthy and very important to do. Same time, I think you have to understand and recognize that it's a balance,
Yeah,
because
for
some
sure.
of the things that I dump on Dylan as an example could ultimately end up, hurting him in the process too. So it's all about, kind of knowing the time and place and judging it, for yourself.
Knowing how to read a
Yeah,
room.
knowing how to read a
Yeah.
room. What about for yourself though, Dylan? Because I'd say that's my biggest one that helps. For
Yeah, see, and that's yeah. See, I know you like I don't like the acknowledgement. I have no
Yeah,
like
so maybe you should tell some people if they don't want that route, what they could do.
I don't know. Well, to me, like I like space when I'm
Yeah,
feeling anxious. When I'm really anxious, and that's like it's awful.
yeah.
It's something that I'm really like working through and like addressing because there are a lot of times, dude, where like I just completely
We're
want to be
laughing,
alone.
but it's
Yeah, or like I completely want to be alone, and you plop down. And it's just like, okay, well, I have to be like, all right, just you have to go with the flow. Like, all right, God,
this isn't the time, bud.
this isn't the time, but like, y- I need to just go with the flow, and it is what it is.
Yeah,
But like, I love being alone when I'm anxious, and unfortunately, I've been anxious a lot for like the past like decade. So like, uh, I like yeah, dude. When I'm alone, I love to just go be alone, listen to some music, read a little bit, write a little bit, pray a little bit, meditate a little bit. I don't know, man. Go for walks. I don't know. But like you don't know this because you've lived with me for an X amount of time, but
yep.
like I'm a lot more open with you than you would think, dude.
Mm,
I'm a lot more open with you than you think.
yeah,
Yeah, dude. But yeah, I love my space. And for people who love their space, people are gonna worry about you, and people are gonna think
yeah,
there's something wrong with you.
yep.
Uh, but like taking time to yourself and taking space to yourself to adequately figure out your anxieties or your depression or your traumas or whatever you're going through is appropriate and okay as long as you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah,
Therapy is always a good option. Medication, as we talked about, is a tool. It's not an end all be all, but it's an option for a lot of people. Um, but yeah, there are a lot of there are support groups, there are churches, there are people at work. There are almost a never ending bevy of people to talk to about your anxiety and about the things you're going through. You just have to kind of like get out of your own head and
Mhm.
talk about them. When I was at my most anxious, it was like you were saying, um, when I wasn't telling anybody anything and just
Yeah.
like holding literally everything in,
Yeah, that's not healthy.
and it wasn't healthy back then. And where I'm at now, I feel like I'm still not where I would like to be, but like I'm a lot more balanced in terms of like when I'm going through something now, I don't need to go run to you and panic. I don't
Yep.
need to like call my mom up and
Yep.
panic. I don't need to like go, run to a substance and panic.
Yep.
You know, I can
Give
go
it to
take a
God.
walk. I can go give it to God. I pray a lot more. That's really all. It's just I pray a lot more and I focus a lot more on, the good things in life. It's a lot more fun to focus on the good things in life.
Yep.
But
The
I
gratitude.
still get anxious every day.
Yep.
You know, it's just in different forms.
I think, and you and I have talked about this, Dylan. It's very easy, and let's just address the elephant in the room. I mean, the state of the world, like we kind of touched on earlier. I think just about anyone and everyone is seeing what's going on around the world lately. Just the tension, whether it's
What?
what.
It's all good
And I'm
out
not
there,
even
dude.
going into like
It's
politics
all
or
good
anything.
out
I'm
there,
just
dude.
saying is even like this later this year and moving forward, like what's this world gonna be like? I
It's gonna
think,
be awesome, dude.
yeah.
It's
I
gonna
mean,
be great.
but what I do know, people, is that again, whether you believe in a god or you don't, if you do believe in something, that's cool because that's what Dylan and I believe in. We believe in a god, but is that at the end of the day, you worrying about what's going to happen moving forward, let's say even a year from now, 5 years from now, say the world blows up 10 years from now, us worrying about that right now at this point in time, whether we know it's going to happen or not, does nothing for you. If anything, what you should challenge yourself to try and do is like, you know, enjoy the time that you have and actually be a light for people rather than just adding to the negativity, adding to the anxiousness. What I've been challenging myself with, and I think helps with anxiety too, everyone is like, trying to be that light again, trying to bring joy, trying to bring, positivity in a sense, because it's so easy to fall into that negative mindset and it just becomes kind of like a plague. So I think sometimes if you just try to challenge yourself to focus, like Dylan said, on the gratitude, the good, it really can help with anxiety and it can help other people too with their anxiety because they're like, oh, Dylan's okay. I'm going to be okay. Like just giving off that presence sometimes it
Yeah.
does help. And that's something that I've really been challenging myself with lately, whether it's being around him, whether it's being around other people in my life. I'll still be feeling anxious, but I realize like, okay, I need to actually like challenge myself and push myself to be like, you know what? I don't need to be like this all the time. There is some element of control, to this. Not all the time, but like there's elements that you can bring for that. And
You can't control the feeling of anxiety that
yeah,
washes over you, so to
but you can
speak.
control how you react to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of like, if you struggle with like drinking,
Yep.
when you're feeling anxious, instead of going to buy a six pack, calling up a friend and like
Yep.
going for a hike.
Yep.
I know this all sounds like trite and this is all the stuff that you hear in like dare classes in middle school and stuff, and hugs, not drugs, but like genuinely it's like, you
For
know,
real though.
it's real and like it's a lot more brave, not so to speak. It's a lot more brave to, call a friend, call a family member, go for a walk, as opposed to whatever crutch that might be. It doesn't have to be a substance. Whatever the crutch is that keeps you in that cycle of anxiety,
Yep.
whatever that crutch might be, you gotta find ways to let go of it. Um, and you're gonna get more anxious for a little while once that crutch is gone, but then you're gonna overcome it.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
This thing right here, honestly, is the biggest. And Dylan has told me this numerous times. Randy, set your phone down, or Randy, throw your phone.
over there.
over there. It's not important. Like honestly, I think Dylan and I can both relate to this. People, you want to have less anxiety, get off your phone. Literally, get off your phone and go touch grass. Go
Yeah, yeah,
talk
for
to
real.
someone.
Go get grounded a little
We're
bit.
gonna clip this hopefully, cause yeah, like, cause that right there is, I think, one of the biggest healers of anxiety is just stop feeding it with the screen, with this tool that literally is the endless portal to anything and
Yeah,
anything,
just
and
balance
go
it
out and
out.
live. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
if you have like some time of your day that you're scrolling or you're on YouTube or you're on Instagram, that's totally fine. But the amount of people I'm meeting who complain about the same thing of like, yeah, I'm just spending hours on my phone. When I get home from work, I just drink a six pack and I just scroll, or I just mindless. It's like, a lot of people are falling into most
it's
people of our
easy
generation.
to do that. Yeah.
So just find communities, find healthy alternatives, and I haven't done all of that. It's a process, right? But anxiety is something that, like we've said, you can't always control the circumstances in your life that manifest it. Like, I wasn't anxious at all before something traumatic in middle school, and then I was anxious,
Mm.
and it was like a switch that just got unlocked, and I couldn't control the actions of the other people that inhabited that switch to turn on.
Yep.
But instead of running to community or running to God or running to anything healthy, I chose to run to other things.
Yep.
And
Things of this world.
yeah, people need to be aware of the choices they're making, and I needed to be aware of my choices. And once you're aware of the choices you're making that are leading to your anxiety or leading to the intensifying of your anxiety, you just have to let those things go. Let go of the things that don't serve you.
Hmm.
But it's easier said than done. It's taken me years and years and years to be able to even think that way, let alone genuinely live that out.
Hmm.
Some days I live that out, some days I don't. Anxiety is a very interesting disorder that a lot of people are really struggling with and propagating in their lives. So, whether or not you have it, that's one thing, but I hope this podcast can at least encourage one or two people to take better steps to, get off your phone, go outside, meet some people,
Touch grass.
yeah, touch grass, you know, um, engage in gratitude, engage in community, like I said. If you're any type of faith or spiritual based person, get connected in your church, whatever. But I just know that anxiety is really hard, and it ruins a lot of people's lives, and a lot of people are reduced to shells of their former selves because of it, and because they're not being supported in the way that they need, or they're not supporting themselves in the way that they need it as well. So, if you have anxiety, please take care of yourself. And if you know people who are clearly struggling with anxiety, try to do your part
Yeah,
to
reach out to them.
reach out to them and be there for them. And even if you don't understand them fully, I don't understand anybody fully. We don't let people's little idiosyncrasies and differences define them and define your perception of them,
Yep.
because everybody's deserving of a helping hand and a conversation and somebody to look them in the eye. And in this age of technology, we're losing that,
Hmm.
and that's also what leads to anxiety in my eyes, is just a lack of connection,
Yep.
just a lack of
Physical connection with people.
genuine physical or genuine friend or genuine any type of genuine connection. We're losing that because we're so inundated with advertising and propaganda all the time with our phones and with the media.
Yep.
But anybody struggling with anxiety, continue to reach out again to that person who asked us a question that was really cool, and we'll keep you in our prayers. And please continue to reach out. And if you have any more questions or need any more advice, please, yeah, please reach out. But yeah, Randy, do you have any closing thoughts on anxiety or anything you'd like to
Yeah.
leave with our peoples?
Yeah, I want to lead with this, just like kind of an empowerment statement here, and I think it ties back to even a couple years ago, Dylan, back in like 2019 or whatever it was, when you were in that one house on, what was it, Carroll Street or what was whatever. It was when you were at
That
Carroll. I
one
remember
house.
that one house. I don't know. It was like back on Carroll's campus when you were living with like Kevin and people like
Okay.
that, and you
I was like, that's on Northeast.
yeah, on Northeast. I go back to that and I'll kind of build off that real quick. Is like you said something to me where again I kept telling you over the years, Dylan, like that really helped me so much. You saw something in me that no one ever really seemed to like ever tell me or point out to me. And from there it made me feel like I had a purpose and I mattered. And what I'll go with that is all of us here, just anyone that's watching this that you're anxious, there are people out there that love you, whether you believe that or not, and also God loves you. But what I'll say is that you have a purpose. You may think like, "Oh, I live a miserable existence," or "I'm so unhappy right now." But just know that you are loved and that you do have a gift. You have probably multiple gifts. And it's just so important that you try to just understand and know that there's a purpose that on this earth that you can do something to maybe even brighten someone else's day or a skill set or a gift that can help other people. I mean, the reason why me and Dylan are even doing this podcast right now is because we felt like this nudge to like, use some of our own gifts to actually help people. And I just encourage all of you to keep chasing that and to actually know that, there is a light at the end of the tunnel and you can overcome all of this. So, with that being said, that's what I finish it with.
Yeah, I don't know if that was that might have been the end of the video. I don't know.
Edge.
But if it's not, that might have just been a warning. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, I couldn't agree with what Randy said more. And that is kind of why we're doing what we're doing. Uh, you know, I know that everything I've been through is so that I can, help people in any way, shape, and form that I can. So, uh, I'm thankful to have somebody next to me that's on that same wavelength, and we go about it in different ways, but we have the same mission, and
Yep.
that's a blessing. But we thank y'all for listening, and again, if you have any ideas or any more feedback or any questions, any concerns, anything, please let us know. And yeah, God bless.
God bless. Uncool Show, episode 9.
Nueve.